Before going further, it is worth being honest about something. There is a fairly simple reason why something this ordinary rarely gets discussed in skincare marketing, and it has nothing to do with effectiveness. A $2 bag of seeds is not a profitable product to build a brand around, and it does not lend itself to dramatic packaging, influencer partnerships, or a $40 price tag. Expensive serums and supplements are easier to market precisely because they feel special, exclusive, and worth paying for, while a kitchen staple that has been sitting in grocery stores for decades does not generate the same sense of discovery. That marketing reality, not a lack of scientific support, is most of why pumpkin seeds rarely come up in conversations about skin health, even though the underlying nutrition science behind zinc and collagen synthesis is well established and has been for a long time. There is no food, no seed, no single ingredient that will erase wrinkles overnight or replace what a dermatologist or qualified skincare professional can do for visible signs of aging. What pumpkin seeds can do, and what the evidence actually supports, is something more modest but still meaningful. They provide nutrients your skin needs to maintain its own structure, and a deficiency in those nutrients can make skin look and feel worse than it needs to. To understand why that matters, it helps to address a common myth first. The idea that any kind of seed or nut will worsen skin and trigger breakouts. This belief seems to have spread mostly from outdated assumptions about fat and oily skin rather than from solid research. Most clinical research on diet and acne points toward high glycemic carbohydrates and certain dairy products as more consistently linked to breakouts than nuts or seeds, and pumpkin seeds in particular are not flagged in the research literature as a common trigger. This does not mean every single person will react identically, since skin can be individually sensitive to all kinds of things, but it does mean there is no strong evidence-based reason to avoid pumpkin seeds out of fear that they will harm rather than help skin. To understand why that matters, it helps to understand what collagen actually is and why it declines with age. Collagen is the most abundant protein in your body. It forms a kind of structural scaffolding underneath your skin, similar to the rebar inside concrete. When that scaffolding is strong and well maintained, skin looks firm and bounces back easily. When the scaffolding weakens, skin sags, fine lines deepen, and healing slows down. Collagen production naturally decreases as people age, beginning subtly in the late 20s and accelerating after menopause for women in particular. This is a normal biological process, not a disease, but it can be supported or undermined depending on what your body has available to work with. It also helps to know that skin scientists generally separate aging into two categories: intrinsic aging, which is the genetically programmed, time-driven decline that happens to everyone regardless of lifestyle, and extrinsic aging, which is caused by external factors like sun exposure, pollution, smoking, and poor nutrition. Intrinsic aging cannot be stopped by any food, supplement, or seed, no matter what a label promises. Extrinsic aging, on the other hand, is where lifestyle and nutrition genuinely have leverage, because much of the damage in this category comes down to oxidative stress and nutrient deficiency, accelerating a process that would otherwise happen more slowly. This is the category where something like pumpkin seeds can plausibly make a measurable difference, not by fighting time itself, but by reducing the additional damage that piles on top of normal aging. Building new collagen is not as simple as eating protein. Your body needs specific raw materials and specific helper molecules, called cofactors, to actually assemble collagen correctly. Without those cofactors, the process slows down or produces weaker collagen fibers, even if you are eating plenty of protein overall. This is where pumpkin seeds become genuinely interesting, because they happen to be one of the more concentrated natural sources of one of the most important of those cofactors, zinc. Zinc plays a documented, well-established role in collagen synthesis. It acts as a cofactor for several of the enzymes responsible for building and cross-linking collagen fibers, and it is also essential for normal wound healing, which is really just collagen production happening rapidly to close an injury. This is not a fringe or speculative claim. Zinc's role in wound healing and tissue repair is taught in basic physiology and has been studied extensively, including in clinical settings where zinc deficiency is known to slow healing and weaken skin integrity. People with documented zinc deficiency often show visibly poorer skin healing, more fragile skin, and slower recovery from minor wounds, and correcting that deficiency through diet or supplementation has been shown to improve those outcomes. The catch is that many people, especially older adults, those who eat a lot of processed food, vegetarians, and people with certain digestive conditions, run low on zinc without realizing it because zinc deficiency rarely causes dramatic symptoms. It shows up quietly: slower healing, more brittle nails, hair that seems thinner than it used to be, and skin that looks duller and recovers more slowly from blemishes or minor irritation. None of these are diagnostic on their own, but together they are worth paying attention to, and they are exactly the kind of thing a small dietary change can help with. Pumpkin seeds are not the only source of zinc. Oysters are actually the most concentrated source, followed by red meat, and then a range of other foods including pumpkin seeds, lentils, chickpeas, and cashews. What makes pumpkin seeds particularly convenient is that they are inexpensive, shelf-stable, easy to carry, and unlike red meat, they come packaged with additional nutrients that support skin health in their own right, namely vitamin E and a range of plant-based antioxidant compounds. Vitamin E is a fat-soluble antioxidant that sits inside cell membranes, including skin cell membranes, and helps protect them from oxidative damage caused by ultraviolet exposure and normal cellular metabolism. Oxidative stress is one of the documented contributors to the visible signs of skin aging because it damages existing collagen and interferes with the body's ability to produce new collagen efficiently. Vitamin E does not reverse damage that has already occurred, but supporting adequate vitamin E intake is part of a broader nutritional strategy that dermatology research consistently associates with better skin resilience over time. Pumpkin seeds also contain a meaningful amount of healthy, unsaturated fat, primarily linoleic acid, which is a component of the skin's outer barrier, the layer responsible for keeping moisture in and irritants out. When the skin barrier is compromised, skin often looks and feels dry, flaky, and more prone to irritation and visible fine lines, simply because it is not retaining moisture the way healthy skin does. Adequate intake of these essential fatty acids supports that barrier function, which is part of why skin that is well nourished from a fat perspective often looks more supple and hydrated. So how does someone actually put this into practice without overcomplicating things or expecting more than nutrition can reasonably deliver? A practical starting point is about 1 to 2 tablespoons of raw or dry roasted, unsalted pumpkin seeds daily, eaten as a snack on their own, sprinkled over salads or yogurt, or blended into a smoothie. This amount provides a meaningful contribution toward daily zinc needs without overdoing calorie intake, since pumpkin seeds, like most seeds, are calorie-dense. There is no benefit to eating large quantities beyond this. Zinc has an upper limit beyond which excess intake can actually interfere with copper absorption and cause its own problems, so more is not better here. Consistency matters far more than quantity. Buying raw or dry roasted seeds, rather than heavily salted or oil roasted versions, matters for 2 reasons. First, excess sodium intake is linked to fluid retention that can make skin look puffier rather than firmer. Second, seeds roasted at high heat in oil can develop oxidized fats, which somewhat defeats the purpose of eating a food meant to reduce oxidative stress in the first place. Raw seeds can be lightly toasted at home in a dry pan for a few minutes if a roasted flavor is preferred, without the added oils and salt. One detail that is genuinely useful and rarely mentioned is that pumpkin seeds, like most seeds, nuts, and legumes, contain compounds called phytates, which can bind to zinc in the digestive tract and reduce how much of it your body actually absorbs. This does not mean pumpkin seeds are not worth eating, but it does mean a few small adjustments can meaningfully improve how much of that zinc you actually get to use. Soaking raw pumpkin seeds in water for a few hours before eating them, or lightly toasting them, can reduce phytate content somewhat. Eating them alongside a small amount of animal protein, such as yogurt or eggs, has also been shown in nutrition research to improve zinc absorption compared to eating them entirely on their own. None of this needs to be complicated or precisely measured. It simply means that a tablespoon of pumpkin seeds stirred into a bowl of yogurt is, in practical terms, a slightly better choice than the same seeds eaten by themselves on a completely empty stomach with nothing else. Pairing pumpkin seeds with a source of vitamin C in the same meal is also worth doing, because vitamin C is required for a different but related step in collagen synthesis, the hydroxylation process that stabilizes the collagen molecule once it has been assembled. Citrus fruit, bell peppers, strawberries, and leafy greens are all reasonable options. This is not about precise timing or some narrow window of absorption. It is simply about building meals that contain complementary nutrients rather than relying on a single ingredient to do everything. It is also worth mentioning sleep and sun protection here, not as an afterthought, but because they matter more than almost any single food choice. Collagen production happens disproportionately during deep sleep, and chronic sleep deprivation has been associated with measurably thinner, less resilient skin in research on shift workers and people with sleep disorders. Similarly, ultraviolet exposure is, by a wide margin, the most significant external driver of collagen breakdown and visible skin aging. No amount of dietary zinc or vitamin E will outpace consistent, unprotected sun exposure. Daily sunscreen use, even on cloudy days and even for people who do not believe they tan easily, remains the single most evidence-supported habit for preserving skin's collagen structure over years and decades. For people who want a concrete starting point rather than a vague intention, here are a few simple ways this actually looks in a day. Breakfast might include a tablespoon of pumpkin seeds stirred into plain yogurt with some berries, which conveniently combines the zinc-rich seeds with both vitamin C from the berries and a source of protein from the yogurt that supports absorption. A mid-afternoon snack could be a small handful of raw pumpkin seeds alongside a piece of fruit instead of a packaged snack bar. Dinner could involve sprinkling toasted pumpkin seeds over a salad that includes bell peppers or leafy greens, again combining the zinc with vitamin C in the same sitting. None of this requires special shopping trips or unusual ingredients. It is simply a matter of substituting pumpkin seeds in for less nutritionally useful snack choices that might otherwise fill the same role in a day. It is also worth noting that a bag of raw pumpkin seeds is genuinely inexpensive compared to most skincare products marketed for similar goals, and it lasts for weeks when stored in an airtight container in a cool, dry place, which makes this one of the more accessible changes someone could realistically sustain long-term, regardless of budget. It is also worth addressing a question that comes up often. What about collagen supplements and collagen powders, which have become extremely popular in recent years? Research on oral collagen supplementation is genuinely mixed and still developing. Some smaller studies have suggested modest improvements in skin hydration and elasticity with consistent use over several months, while other research has found limited or inconsistent effects, and there is ongoing scientific debate about how much intact collagen actually survives digestion to be used by the body in a meaningful way, as opposed to simply being broken down into generic amino acids like any other protein source. This is in contrast to something like zinc's role in collagen synthesis, which rests on a much longer and more consistent body of physiological research. None of this means collagen supplements are useless, but it does mean that promises of dramatic, guaranteed skin transformation from any powder or capsule should be approached with the same healthy skepticism as promises from a single seed. The honest, evidence-supported position is that adequate micronutrient intake, including zinc, vitamin C, and vitamin E, has a clearer and more established mechanistic basis than most collagen supplements currently on the market. Even though both approaches are reasonable things to discuss with a healthcare provider if someone is specifically interested in skin support, there are a few mistakes worth avoiding when trying to support skin health through diet. The first is expecting visible results within days. Skin cells and collagen fibers turn over on a timescale of weeks to months, not days. So meaningful changes attributable to dietary adjustments typically become noticeable. If they become noticeable at all, somewhere in the range of 2 to 3 months of consistent habits, not immediately. The second mistake is assuming that more zinc, more vitamin E, or more of any single nutrient automatically means better results. Nutrient excess can cause its own issues, and the body's systems generally respond to adequacy, not maximization. The third mistake is treating any food, including pumpkin seeds, as a substitute for sun protection, adequate sleep, or hydration, all of which have a larger documented impact on skin appearance than any individual seed or supplement. Beyond zinc and the other nutrients in pumpkin seeds, a handful of broader lifestyle factors deserve mention because they tend to outweigh any single food choice in terms of their effect on skin appearance. Chronic dehydration reduces skin's plumpness and can make fine lines more visible, simply because skin cells, like all cells, rely on adequate water content to maintain their structure. This does not mean forcing down excessive amounts of water beyond what the body needs, but it does mean that consistently underhydrating, which is common among older adults whose thirst signals become less reliable with age, can work against any other effort to support skin health. Alcohol consumption is another factor worth being honest about. Alcohol is dehydrating. It places metabolic stress on the liver that can indirectly affect how efficiently the body processes nutrients, and frequent or heavy use has been associated in research with visibly accelerated skin aging, including reduced elasticity and increased fine lines. Smoking is, by a significant margin, one of the most well-documented accelerators of visible skin aging that exists in the research literature because it directly damages collagen and elastin fibers and restricts blood flow to the skin. No dietary strategy, including the one described here, can meaningfully offset the skin effects of regular smoking. These factors are mentioned not to be discouraging, but because an honest conversation about skin health has to include them. A video that only talks about a seed while ignoring these much larger variables would be giving an incomplete and somewhat misleading picture. Some people are likely to notice more benefit from paying attention to zinc intake than others. Vegetarians and vegans, who do not eat the most concentrated zinc sources like red meat and shellfish, often run closer to the lower end of adequate zinc intake and may benefit more noticeably from incorporating seeds like pumpkin seeds consistently. Older adults are another group worth mentioning, both because zinc absorption tends to become somewhat less efficient with age and because dietary variety sometimes narrows in later life due to appetite changes, dental issues, or simplified cooking habits. People recovering from an injury, surgery, or skin condition that involves significant healing also have a temporarily higher demand for zinc, since wound healing is one of the most zinc-dependent processes in the body. None of this is a reason for self-diagnosis, but it does explain why some people who add this habit notice more of a difference than others, and it underscores why a conversation with a doctor about diet and any specific deficiency concerns is always a reasonable step, particularly for anyone in one of these higher need groups.